My name is Christina, and I'm about to tell you a story that you might not believe. But I need to warn you, this story is dark, twisted, and completely true. 3 weeks ago, I was in the emergency room, staring at the sterile white ceiling tiles while machines beeped around me like a countdown to death. The fluorescent lights burned my eyes. The smell of disinfectant mixed with my own sweat. My organs were failing, and the doctors couldn't figure out why. I remember Dr. Patel standing over me, his face etched with confusion as he reviewed test results for the 3rd time that night. His hands trembled slightly as he held the clipboard. Never a good sign when your doctor is nervous. "Mrs. Bennett, we've run every panel we have," he said, adjusting his glasses with fingers that betrayed his professional calm. "Your liver enzymes are through the roof. Kidney function is severely compromised. Your white blood cell count is erratic, but we can't find a conclusive diagnosis. Just some traces of compounds we can't identify." My mother sat in the corner, crying silently, clutching her rosary beads, something she only did when she was terrified. My best friend Rachel held my hand, her grip almost painful, whispering, "You're going to be okay. You have to be okay." But her voice cracked on the last word. I wasn't sure I would be okay. My body felt like it was shutting down, piece by piece, like a building being demolished from the inside out. However, somewhere deep in my gut, past the pain, past the fear, past the morphine haze, a small voice whispered something I didn't want to hear. "This isn't natural. This is deliberate." I knew. I knew because this wasn't the first time. Over the past 6 months, I'd been to the hospital 3 times, every time with the same symptoms. Severe stomach pain that felt like knives twisting inside me. Dizziness so intense the room would spin even when I was lying down. Vomiting that left me hollow and weak. Organ inflammation that the doctors described as extremely unusual for someone your age. Every time the doctors were confused, running tests that came back inconclusive or contradictory, and every single time, these episodes happened within 24 hours of having dinner with my husband James and his sister Nina. The first time, February 14th, Valentine's Day, I thought it was food poisoning. Bad oysters from that fancy restaurant James had chosen. Must have been the seafood, everyone agreed. I spent the night vomiting, but by morning I'd convinced myself it was just bad luck. The second time, March 3rd at Nina's birthday celebration. I wondered if I had developed some kind of sudden allergy. To what, I couldn't figure out. But the stomach cramps were so severe that Rachel had to drive me to the ER at 2 a.m. "Probably stress," the doctor had said. "Your job is very demanding." The third time, March 28th, our 7th wedding anniversary, I started asking questions. Because 3 times in 2 months wasn't coincidence. It was a pattern. But everyone dismissed my concerns. "You're stressed, Christina. The new promotion, the demanding clients, the long hours, it's taking a toll on your body." Even my own therapist suggested I might be developing anxiety-induced psychosomatic symptoms. My mind tried to convince me I was being paranoid. That I was seeing patterns where there were none. That I was letting work stress create conspiracy theories about my own family. But this morning changed everything. James called me from his office at exactly 9:47 a.m. I remember the time because I was staring at my phone, debating whether to call my doctor again, or just accept that my body was betraying me for unknown reasons. His voice carried that particular tone I'd learned to recognize over 7 years of marriage. Not quite concern, not quite excitement. Something in between that made my skin prickle with unease. "Christina, honey, Nina has planned a special family brunch tomorrow, Sunday. You have to come. She's really excited about it, and you know how much family means to her." The words tumbled out quickly, rehearsed. Family. That word he always used like a weapon disguised as warmth. "I'm still recovering, James. Maybe next week when I'm feeling stronger." "No." His voice sharpened, just for a second, before immediately softening again. "No, it has to be tomorrow. She's been planning this for weeks, specifically for your return. Please, for me? For us?" The urgency in his voice, that desperate edge, told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a casual brunch invitation. This wasn't a family gathering to celebrate my recovery. This was execution day. Let me take you back. 2 days before that phone call, the night that shattered my reality, James was on a late shift, or at least that's what he told me. "Big project deadline, can't miss it," he'd said, kissing my forehead before leaving. His lips were cold. They'd felt cold for months, but I'd attributed it to stress. "Don't wait up, sweetheart." I'd smiled, waved from the doorway, and the moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I watched until his taillights disappeared completely. Something inside me cracked. Like ice breaking under pressure. For 6 months, I'd been the perfect wife. Trusting, supportive, never questioning. Never snooping, never doubting. But that night, lying alone in our king-sized bed that felt more like a coffin than a comfort, my survival instinct finally overpowered my denial. His office was on the 2nd floor, a converted guest room that became his private workspace about a year ago. Right around the time my health problems started, now that I thought about it. The timing suddenly seemed less coincidental. The door had a combination lock, which always seemed excessive for someone who claimed to work in generic corporate consulting. "What do you need to lock away?" I'd asked once, laughing. "Confidential work documents," he'd replied with that easy smile. "Client privacy regulations. Federal compliance stuff. You understand." I understood, or I thought I did. That night, standing outside his locked office door at 11:37 p.m., I remember checking my watch, wondering if I'd lost my mind. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff. If I crossed this line, if I violated his privacy and found nothing, our marriage would be damaged irreparably by my paranoia. But if I found something, my hand trembled as I reached for the lock. The combination, what would he use? His birthday, 0827? Too obvious. I tried it anyway. Nothing. His mother's birthday, 1103? Possibly. Wrong again. Then, almost as a bitter joke, I tried our anniversary date. October 12th, 2019, 101219. Click. The lock opened with a sound that seemed impossibly loud in the silent house. Ironic, right? He was poisoning me, but using our anniversary date, the day he'd promised to love and protect me forever, as the password to his secrets. The office looked normal at first. Desk, computer, filing cabinets, everything organized with that particular precision that James prided himself on. "A clear desk is a clear mind," he always said, straightening papers obsessively. The air smelled like him. That expensive cologne he wore, mixed with coffee and paper. Familiar, safe, wrong. I almost turned back. Almost convinced myself I was being ridiculous, that I was violating his privacy for no reason, that I'd become the suspicious, paranoid wife I'd always sworn I'd never be. But then I saw the drawer, the bottom left drawer of his desk, slightly ajar. Just an inch, as if he'd been in a hurry the last time he'd accessed it, too distracted to ensure it was completely closed. Inside was a leather-bound notebook, expensive, the kind you'd buy at a high-end stationery store. Moleskine, professional quality, the kind people use for important things. The cover was worn at the edges, indicating frequent use. My hands shook as I opened it. The pages were thick, cream-colored. His handwriting filled every line. That precise, architectural script he'd learned in engineering school. The first page had my name at the top, underlined 3 times. Subject analysis, like I was an experiment, like I was a lab rat. What followed made my blood run cold, then hot, then cold again. My vision blurred. My hands went numb. It wasn't a diary. It wasn't random notes. It was a detailed clinical log, methodical, precise, terrifying in its professional detachment. February 14th, Valentine's Day dinner, Rossini's restaurant compound, RC47, variant B, dosage, 2, 5 ml administration. Method, mixed in dinner wine, Cabernet Sauvignon, her preferred red blend, bottle decanted to mask any taste irregularities. Expected symptoms, mild nausea, dizziness, fatigue, possible headache. Observed results, symptoms appeared approximately 3 hours post-ingestion. Severity, mild. Subject attributed illness to bad wine or rich food. No hospital visit required. Symptoms resolved within 12 hours. Success. Notes. Initial dosage effective for baseline establishment. Subject showed expected response pattern. Increased dosage incrementally in next administration. Needs stronger physical impact to establish pattern of declining health. Subject must appear progressively weaker to establish narrative. Nina's assessment, too subtle. Needs to be more dramatic to affect work performance. March 3rd, Nina's 34th birthday celebration. Nina's residence compound, RC47, variant B. Dosage, 3, 8 52% increase. Administration method. Mix thoroughly in birthday cake frosting. Chocolate ganache, layered over entire slice, compound masked by cocoa bitterness. Expected symptoms: severe cramping, persistent vomiting, elevated heart rate, possible dehydration. Observed results: emergency room visit required after 4 hours. Subject hospitalized for 6 hours under observation. Doctors diagnosed unexplained acute gastric inflammation and possible food sensitivity reaction. Released with antacids and rest recommendation. Success. Notes: dosage created desired medical intervention. Hospital records now establish pattern of mysterious illness. However, caused excessive attention from ER staff. Reduce public administration settings in future. Subject's friend Rachel becoming suspicious. Expressed concerns about too many coincidences. Must be careful. Nina's assessment, perfect. Christina missed the Morrison pitch meeting. I closed the account instead. March 28th, 7th anniversary dinner, home, private setting. Compound, RC47, variant C, Palmbees. Supplement B12. Dosage, 4. 2 mg compound. Plus, 15 mg B12, pharmaceutical grade. Administration method: mixed in anniversary champagne toast. Dom Perignon. Compound dissolves completely in carbonation. Expected symptoms: moderate organ inflammation, respiratory distress, possible cardiac irregularities. Observed results: ICU admission required within 2 hours. 48-hour observation under cardiac monitoring. Subject exhibited significant liver enzyme elevation. ALT, 340 UL, AST, 298 UL, kidney stress markers, and intermittent tachycardia. Doctors unable to identify causative agent despite extensive toxicology panel. Case attributed to chronic stress-induced organ dysfunction and possible autoimmune response. Success. Notes: subject showing cumulative systemic damage. Physical resilience noticeably decreased. Weight loss, 12 lb since February. Visible physical deterioration noted by colleagues, per Nina's report. Medical establishment, increasingly viewing case as chronic condition rather than acute poisoning. Perfect narrative development. Subject psychologically vulnerable, beginning to doubt own sanity per evening conversations. Depression symptoms emerging. Proceed to final phase within 30 days while physical state remains compromised. Nina's assessment. She looked terrible at the office. Henderson account team expressing concerns about her reliability. Perfect timing. The pages blurred as tears filled my eyes. Each entry was dated with precision. Each entry had my symptoms predicted before they happened, like a weather forecast for my suffering. Each entry marked with that clinical word, success. But it was the last entry that made my heart stop beating for what felt like a full minute. April 15th, Sunday family brunch. Nina's residence compound, RC47, variant D, final formulation. Dosage, blank space to be determined on site. Administration method, morning coffee. French press preparation by J, served by N in controlled environment. Expected symptoms. Blank space, observed results. Blank space, recovery, prognosis, blank space. And then, circled multiple times in red marker, underlined heavily, emphasized with a box drawn around it. Final dose. Complete protocol. Terminate observation. Eliminate risk factor. Below that, in Nina's handwriting, I recognized her sharp, aggressive script. Henderson presentation is Monday. If C is eliminated Sunday, I can take over the account Monday morning. Perfect timing. No competition. Terminate observation. Eliminate risk factor. Those words echoed in my head as I sat on the floor of his office, my legs giving out beneath me. The notebook had fallen from my numb fingers. Pages splayed open like a confession. Terminate. Eliminate. Clinical words for murder. My husband, who held me when I cried about my father's death, who called me his forever person, who promised before God and our families to love me in sickness and in health, was systematically poisoning me with the help of his sister. And tomorrow, Sunday, April 15th, they were going to finish the job. Not to watch me suffer, not to make me dependent, but to eliminate me, to murder me, because I was competition for Nina's career advancement. The racing mind. The longest night. I don't remember how long I sat there on the floor of his office. The clock on his desk said 12:47 a.m. when I finally looked up. Over an hour had passed. An hour of my mind fragmenting and reassembling. My phone buzzed, the sound like an electric shock. A text from James illuminated the screen. Still working late. Love you so much, sweetheart. Get some rest. Tomorrow will be a good day. Love you. Tomorrow will be a good day. Those words that used to make me smile now felt like acid poured directly on an open wound. I wanted to scream until my throat bled. I wanted to run out into the street and never stop running. I wanted to confront him the moment he walked through the door, to throw the notebook in his face and demand answers to questions I couldn't even formulate. But then, through the shock and horror and betrayal, a different voice emerged. Cold. Calculating. Primal. Survivor's instinct cutting through emotional chaos like a knife. If you confront him now, what proof do you really have? A notebook he can claim you forged. He'll say you're mentally unstable. There's already a medical record of your psychological decline in those hospital notes. He'll say the stress of work has broken you, that you've become paranoid and delusional, that you're fabricating evidence because you can't handle the pressure. I stood up on shaking legs and took photos. Every single page of that notebook. Close-ups of his handwriting, detailed enough for forensic analysis. The dates, the dosages, the clinical observations, Nina's notes in her handwriting, everything. 47 photos total. Then I put the notebook back exactly as I'd found it. Pages at the same angle, drawer the same inch ajar. I locked the office with trembling hands, making sure the combination was reset properly. And I went to the guest room, not our shared bedroom, but the room I'd been sleeping in since my last health episode, because James had said I needed rest without disturbance. So my tossing and turning doesn't wake you. Now I understood the real reason. He needed me isolated. Controlled, separated, alone. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. My mind was a hurricane of thoughts spinning faster than I could process. Option 1, go to the police immediately. But with what evidence? A notebook that James could claim was fabricated by his paranoid, mentally unwell wife. No physical evidence of poisoning in my current blood work, because it had been 2 weeks since the last incident, and whatever RC-47 was, it clearly metabolized quickly. His word and Nina's word against mine. A successful businessman and respected marketing executive versus a woman with a documented history of mysterious health problems that doctors suspected might be psychological. Option 2, confront him and Nina directly. And then what? Give them time to destroy evidence? To coordinate their stories? To paint me as the unstable aggressor? Worst case scenario, they accelerate the timeline. Why wait until Sunday if she's already discovered the truth? Option 3, disappear, run, hide, change my identity. But run where? For how long? With what resources? And let them win? Let them get away with attempting to murder me? Let Nina take my clients, my reputation, my life's work? No, there was only one real option. Dangerous, risky, requiring nerves of steel, but necessary. I needed to catch them in the act. I needed undeniable proof. Video, audio, confession, evidence that couldn't be explained away or dismissed. The brunch was tomorrow, Sunday. The final dose was planned. They would be confident, convinced I was clueless. They'd let their guard down. They'd talk, confess, reveal everything. If I played this perfectly, if I controlled my fear, if I acted normally, if I was smart, I could get everything I needed to not only stop them, but to ensure they never hurt anyone else again. I spent that entire night preparing with the focus of someone preparing for war. At 6 a.m., when I knew my lawyer Martin Chen would be awake, he was notoriously early riser, I called him. He answered on the second ring, voice already alert despite the hour. Christina? What's wrong? Are you okay? Martin, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to not ask questions until after tomorrow. Can you do that? There was a pause. Martin had been my lawyer for 5 years. He knew when I was serious. Tell me what you need. I emailed him the 47 photos of James's notebook with a message that I'd drafted and redrafted 12 times. Martin, if you don't hear from me by 2 p.m. tomorrow, Sunday, April 15th, immediately call the police and give them these documents. Consider this a sealed instruction under client-attorney privilege. This is my insurance policy. These photos document a systematic attempted murder plot against me by my husband James Bennett and his sister Nina Anderson. If something happens to me tomorrow, This is the evidence that will convict them. Do not contact me before 2 p.m. tomorrow. Do not warn them, just wait. If I'm alive and safe, I'll call you by 2 p.m. and you can delete everything. If you don't hear from me, assume the worst and act immediately. Christina, what the hell is going on? Martin, please. Trust me, after tomorrow I'll explain everything. But if something happens to me, those photos need to reach the police immediately. They're planning something tomorrow. This is my safety net. Promise me. Another long silence. I could hear him breathing, processing. I promise. But Christina, please be careful. Whatever this is, please be smart. I will. Thank you, Martin. At 7:30 a.m., I went to a surveillance equipment store that opened early. One of those places that caters to private investigators and security professionals. The owner, a grizzled ex-cop named Frank with sharp eyes and a knowing expression, raised an eyebrow when I walked in. Help you with something? I need a recording device, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Something small, completely undetectable, high audio quality, long battery life. He studied me for a long moment. The kind of look that sees past your words to your situation. Domestic situation? I didn't answer. Didn't need to. My silence was confirmation enough. He nodded slowly and pulled out a pen from a locked cabinet. Normal looking, professional, black ballpoint. Completely ordinary except for the tiny LED indicator hidden in the clip. Audio recorder, 12-hour battery life. Voice activated or continuous recording. Memory stores up to 20 hours. Just click the top twice to start recording. Click 3 times to stop. Nobody will suspect a thing. Had it myself when I was on the force doing undercover work. How much? $200. I paid cash. No electronic trail. No credit card statement for James to find. Stay safe, Frank said as I left, his voice carrying the weight of someone who'd seen too many domestic situations end badly. Third, I prepared my backup phone, an old iPhone 8 I'd kept from my previous job. I charged it fully, logged into a separate iCloud account, and programmed 911 as a speed dial. One button press and the call would go through instantly. Fourth, I went to a pharmacy and bought 2 things. Small evidence collection bags, the kind sold for travel medical samples, and a tiny glass vial with a sealing cap. If they tried to poison me tomorrow, I'd need to collect a sample. Physical evidence. Undeniable. Fifth, and most importantly, I prepared myself mentally. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror for 30 minutes, practicing my expressions. Smile, look relaxed. Don't let fear show in my eyes. Control my breathing. Speak normally. Be the Christina they expect to see, the recovering, weakened, trusting wife. I rehearsed the conversation in my head. What would I say if they asked why I looked better? How would I react if they insisted I drink the coffee? What would trigger them to confess? I needed to be smart, patient, strategic. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about justice. When James came home that night at 9:15 p.m., I was sitting in the living room, reading a book. Or pretending to. The words were meaningless marks on a page. "Hey, honey," he said, kissing my cheek. His lips felt like touching a corpse. Cold. Wrong. "How was your day?" "Quiet," I smiled, the muscles in my face aching from the effort. "Restful. I actually went for a short walk. First time in weeks. I'm feeling a lot better." Something flickered in his expression. Not quite disappointment, not quite concern. Something darker, like a predator watching prey unexpectedly recover strength. That's great," he said slowly. "So you'll definitely be able to make it to Nina's brunch tomorrow? She'll be so disappointed if you cancel." "Absolutely," I said brightly, maintaining eye contact. "I'm looking forward to it. It's been too long since we had family time. I've missed Nina." The lie tasted like poison in my mouth, but I smiled through it. He smiled back, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. It never had, I realized. For 7 years, I'd mistaken performance for genuine emotion. Great, I'll let her know. She'll be thrilled. I bet she will, I thought. Thrilled that the competition will be eliminated. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, counting down the hours. Midnight. 6 hours until the brunch. 2 a.m. 4 hours. 4 a.m., 2 hours. 6 a.m., time to get ready. Sunday morning, April 15th. The day marked in red in James's notebook. The day circled as final dose. I woke at 6 a.m., though I'd barely slept. My body was vibrating with adrenaline, fear, determination, a cocktail of emotions so intense I felt nauseous. I stood in front of my closet for 15 minutes, choosing my outfit with the strategy of a soldier selecting armor. Not too formal, would seem suspicious like I was expecting something. Not too casual, needed to feel strong, capable. I settled on dark jeans, a white silk blouse, and a structured blazer. Professional but comfortable. The blazer had deep pockets, perfect for concealing the recording pen, my backup phone, and the evidence bags. Colors, white for innocence, dark for strength. Subconscious messaging. I applied minimal makeup. Just enough to look healthy, but not so much that it seemed like I was trying too hard. Concealer to hide the purple shadows under my eyes from sleepless nights. Blush to create the appearance of wellness. A hint of lip color to look alive. In my purse, I carefully packed the recording pen, clicked twice, already recording, tiny LED glowing green. My backup phone, 911 ready on speed dial, volume on silent placed in pocket for instant access. 2 sealed plastic evidence bags. The small glass vial with sealing cap. My regular phone, in case I needed to call for help without revealing the backup. A small knife, just in case things went wrong. Worst case scenario, I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was pale despite the makeup, but my eyes were determined. Harder than they'd ever been. "You can do this," I whispered to my reflection. "You have to do this. This is survival." The drive to Nina's house took 22 minutes. I timed it. Every minute felt like an hour. Every red light felt like a delay, forcing me to face what I was about to do. James had insisted on driving separately. "I have to stop by the office first. Forgot some documents," he'd said. Another lie in an intricate web of lies, which meant he was probably coordinating with Nina. Final preparations. Making sure everything was ready for the final dose. Ebonites. Nina lived in Riverside Heights, an upscale neighborhood, where houses started at $800,000. Her house was a modern architectural masterpiece, all glass panels and white surfaces and geometric precision. It looked like something from a design magazine, every line perfect, every angle calculated, just like Nina, perfect on the outside, poisonous within. I parked my car strategically, not in her driveway but on the street, facing the direction of exit. Easy escape route if I needed to run. Keys already in my pocket, not in my purse. I sat in the car for 30 seconds, breathing deeply. In for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out for 4. Combat breathing. Something I'd learned in a self-defense class years ago, never thinking I'd actually need it. My hands were shaking. I clenched them into fists, then released. Clenched. Released. You are strong. You are smart. You are going to survive this. The front door opened before I could knock. Nina must have been watching from the window. "Christina, so glad you could make it," Nina smiled. But I noticed her eyes immediately went to my face, scanning, evaluating, probably wondering why I looked stronger than expected, why I wasn't the weakened, deteriorating victim they'd anticipated. She was wearing a designer pantsuit, Armani, if I wasn't mistaken. Cream-colored. Her hair was perfectly styled in a sleek low bun. Minimal jewelry, just her Cartier watch and diamond stud earrings. Not a strand of hair out of place. Not a wrinkle in her outfit. She looked like she was hosting a business meeting, not a family brunch, because this wasn't a brunch. This was an execution dressed up as a social gathering. "Thanks for inviting me," I said, stepping inside. The air conditioning was strong, making the house feel almost clinical. Cold. "Where's James?" "He'll be here in a few minutes. He texted that he's picking up fresh pastries from that French bakery you love on Market Street." "Leavin'? The one with the almond croissants you always order?" Thoughtful husband gesture, or another excuse to coordinate final timing without me present. "That's sweet of him," I said, the words tasting like ash. The living room was exactly as I remembered from previous visits. White leather couches that looked uncomfortable and probably were. Abstract art on the walls, splashes of black and red that looked like violence. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a manicured garden where every plant was trimmed to geometric precision. Not a leaf out of place. Everything expensive. Everything perfect. Everything cold. "Coffee?" Nina asked, gesturing toward the kitchen with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. That would be lovely. I followed her into the kitchen, every sense on high alert. This was the room where it would happen. The coffee. The final dose. My heart was pounding so hard I was afraid she could hear it. The kitchen counter had everything already set up. Too prepared. Too perfect. A French press, expensive, copper and glass. 2 white porcelain cups with gold trim, arranged precisely. Sugar in a crystal bowl. Cream in a matching pitcher. Fresh croissants on a designer plate. The staging of a murder scene disguised as hospitality. "I hope you're feeling better," Nina said, her back to me as she poured hot water from an electric kettle into the French press. Her movements were practiced, precise. "James has been so worried about you. He talks about it constantly." "Does he?" I kept my voice neutral, watching her hands. "Looking for anything unusual? Of course. Your health episodes. The hospital visits. The doctors not being able to figure out what's wrong. He feels so helpless, unable to make you feel better. It's been really hard on him. Unable or unwilling. I'm sure it's been difficult for everyone," I said carefully. Nina turned around, the French press in her hands. Dark coffee swirled inside like a poison potion. She placed it on the counter between us with exaggerated gentleness. "Let it steep for 4 minutes," she said, glancing at the minimalist clock on the wall. "I know you like your coffee strong, bold, just like you. 4 minutes. Enough time for what? For James to arrive? For the compound to fully dissolve? For them to coordinate?" "Actually," I said, pulling out a chair at the kitchen island, "I wanted to talk to you about something while we wait for James." Nina's expression shifted, just slightly, a flicker of wariness behind the social mask. "Oh? My doctor ran some additional tests last week. More detailed toxicology screening. Very thorough. They found something unusual." The change in her body language was subtle but unmistakable. Shoulders tensed. Hands gripped the counter edge slightly tighter. Breathing pattern changed. Unusual how? Traces of pharmaceutical compounds, rare ones. Not the kind of thing you'd encounter accidentally or through normal environmental exposure. The kind that requires specialized access, lab access, professional-grade chemistry, silence. The kind of silence that screams with unspoken truth. The front door opened with a precise click. James's voice called out cheerfully, "I'm here! Got the pastries!" But the cheerfulness was forced, performative. I could hear it now. How had I missed it before? He walked into the kitchen carrying an expensive bakery box, his smile bright and warm and completely fake. But when he saw my face, saw Nina's expression, something shifted in his eyes. "Everything okay?" he asked carefully, setting the box down slowly. "Christina was just telling me about her recent doctor's visit," Nina said, her voice too controlled. "Some interesting test results." James looked at me, and for a split second, I saw something flicker in his expression. Fear, realization, calculation? "What did they find?" he asked, his voice perfectly modulated between concern and curiosity. "Sit down," I said quietly. "Not a request. A command. Both of you." For a moment, neither moved. The kitchen felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. Then, slowly, they sat across from me at the kitchen island, like we were having a normal family conversation about weekend plans or vacation ideas, except this wasn't normal. This was life and death. "I found your notebook, James." The words hung in the air like a detonation. The silence that followed was absolute. His face went pale, completely pale, like all the blood drained from his body in an instant, leaving behind a wax figure. "What notebook?" Nina asked, but her voice cracked on the last word. She already knew. She was in those notes. "The one in his locked office," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "The one with detailed entries about poisoning me. Dates, times, compounds, dosages, symptoms, observed results, notes about progression. Your assessment comments, Nina, all documented with terrifying precision." You're insane," James stammered, but there was no conviction in his voice. "You broke into my office?" "Yes," I said calmly. "I broke into my own husband's office in my own house because I was dying, and nobody could tell me why. Interesting how self-preservation overrides social niceties." "Christina, listen to yourself," Nina started, leaning forward with calculated concern. "No," I interrupted, my voice sharp enough to cut. "You listen to me, both of you. I know everything. I know about RC-47. I know about Greg Mitchell at Morrison Pharmaceuticals. I know about the cash withdrawals, Nina. The ones that line up perfectly with James's Thursday visits to Greg. I know about the progressive dosing. February 14th, 2, 5 milligrams. March 3rd, 3, 8 milligrams. March 28th, 4, 2 milligrams. And I know that today, April 15th, was supposed to be the final dose." I watched their faces carefully. James's hands were shaking. Nina had gone very still, the stillness of a predator caught in.